Hi everyone, Charlotta here, and this is the School of Pattern Cutting, where I help you draft your perfect wardrobe. Today I've got something really exciting, a new series with another pattern cutter called Catherine from Project Pattern. And in each episode we're going to discuss 5 things which helped us in our pattern cutting. So it could be tools, blocks, pattern, mistakes we've made, but we thought we start this series by discussing 5 things we really wish somebody told us when we just started to learn to pattern cut. So let's start this video a bit by talking about how we got where we are now. Catherine, why don't you start us off?
Cool. So I've been sewing for a really long time, since I was probably like a young teenager. My mum always sewed and then she taught me. I know it's great. Pretty much everyone's story starts like that, doesn't it? And then I kind of liked it. So I thought, actually, I think I want to make a career out of this. So then I went to study fashion design at uni. Of course, thought I was going to be like the next Karl Lagerfeld. Wasn't, of course, but discovered pattern cutting and realised that it's a job you can do, and realised that actually I really like it and I'm actually not bad at it. So that's kind of what kicked me off wanting to be a pattern cutter. So I did all my training at uni, and then when I went into the industry I was obviously really focused because I knew I wanted to be a pattern cutter, and then I just went from there. I managed to get a junior pattern cutting job, and that's where I got like the real practical knowledge. I think at uni you get lots of kind of like book knowledge, but you only get to practice a certain amount. And then when I went into the industry I got all of my really practical industry knowledge, and then it just went from there. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. How about you?
Yes, actually sort of similar, but I don't think I was as focused as you. So the same as you, I sort of really like making things and being creative. So I went to university to study fashion design as well, but realized, I'm not going to be the next Marc Jacobs or Muji Prada. But also realizing in a way that if you're a designer, most of the time you spend not actually doing lots of design. So I then realized that pattern cutting is actually one part of the industry where you are in a studio and you're making things all day long. And that's the side of fashion I love. I love research, but I want to sort of actually be in the creating part of fashion rather than having to email people and planning who's gonna shoot your fashion show with. So I did a separate pattern degree because my bachelor wasn't that technical focused, probably compared to yours. And then worked as a pattern cutter for about a year, but then I got back into a design track, but using my pattern cutting knowledge. So it was a sort of a combination. So I don't think I have probably not as much professional experience as you in pattern cutting, but I sort of applied it to different other skills such as design and then teaching later on as well. But I think you're teaching as well, aren't you?
Yeah, so I teach online. I was teaching in person before COVID, so hopefully after COVID we'll be teaching in person again. But yeah, I teach online. So once I hit industry, I obviously love industry, but it's nice to have a bit of a change of pace. So I started working for a friend of mine who runs the new craft house, doing a few workshops with them. Realised again that actually I quite like this teaching thing and it's a nice new challenge. So decided to do that, and that kind of kicked off, surprisingly. And now I have Project Patterns, which is a company that I do online classes, both on Zoom like this, or a bit different to this, but on Zoom. And I do them one-to-one classes or group classes, and then also kind of pre-recorded Skillshare kind of format, I guess, online that you can do. But where are you teaching?
I taught in real life as well until about a year and a half ago, but then I had a baby. So now I'm just doing online, but I actually quite like it because if you're teaching, but I love teaching in real life because you actually get to see what people make and stuff. But I think the great thing with online is that you get to meet so many more people. Because wherever you're based teaching, whether it's London or Suffolk or Bristol, you are sort of in your bubble. So I find it really fascinating seeing all of different people's experience online.
And I think... Sorry, go.
I was just going to say, I agree with you that what's nice about teaching, it's quite joyful, because if you work as a pattern cutter, designer, is in the end you have a deadline and it has to be done, and it's not a it is a professional thing, so you're not sort of just enjoying creating so much, which is nice about teaching. If you get to work with people who are just making stuff for themselves most of the time and enjoying it, rather than thinking, God, I have to get 10 more styles done by the end of the week.
Yeah, I'm going to have to stay till midnight tonight just to finish this. But I think what I really like about the balance that I've got at the moment is that I still do a lot of teaching, which is great because, like you said, it has benefits because it's so joyful and your people are there and you're imparting your knowledge, which is just a lovely feeling. But I also still do a lot of freelance work. So I still am challenging myself with my pattern cutting to kind of learn and create new things and work in a professional setting. But then I'm also challenging myself with my teaching. So I'm learning new teaching skills and meeting new people and things like that. So I'm getting challenged in both of the ways that I want to be challenged, which I feel really lucky for. Actually, it's nice to have the good parts of either side of pattern cutting.
Yeah, I think they probably both nurture each other, isn't it? You're constantly getting better at both.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
So this week we did say that we are going to talk about 5 things that we wish we had known when we started pattern cutting, right? So I'm going to kick us off with number 1. And the first one that we wanted to say to everyone is don't be afraid. Pattern cutting can seem huge and daunting, but it's really not that daunting. If you just take that first little step into the world, then it does kind of open up and it begins to make a little bit more sense. Take baby steps and don't be afraid.
Yes, totally. Because you see lots of people when you first sort of Google pattern cutting, you see lots of people and they're fantastic and they look effortless and they make it, don't they? It's like we're creating a Dior gown and it's just sort of pinned and then it appears out of nowhere. And I think real life, from my own experience, so much stuff went wrong to begin with. And it's sort of thinking stuff is in a way not to think too big, because I think I did it where I was a bit frightened, but then it's just take the joy in it and just say, okay, I'm going to make a top, and I take little stops, as you said, because nobody gets to the big gown without starting, just watching a few videos, making a few things, talking to your friends or even like your mums. And I think grandma's always great at sort of just like really good basic knowledge, aren't they?
Yeah, completely. I completely agree there.
Yeah, and the other thing is, I think, as well as, which is the second point, as well as there being lots of people amazing things, there's so much stuff to buy. So when you first see people, they have all these tools. You might watch like some of, when you see the Chanel Haute Couture studio series and they got a mannequin like us, they got lots of tools. And when you think, God, it's so much money. And I think there's a real pressure of always having the perfect tools to begin with. So we both agreed that to begin with, actually, I started out with just a metal ruler and some brown paper and a pencil. And you might just be like copying your favorite top or making a commercial pattern, and that's enough to begin with. Don't have the pressure to just buy everything straight away.
Yeah, you don't have to spend heaps and heaps of money. Obviously, it is great at some point to have all the tools that you need. So like your notcher, your kind of drill hole, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, Pattern Master. Do you know what? I've actually still got the same Pattern Master that I have, that I bought when I was at uni. So this has been in my life since 2011.
You treat them a bit better because this is my real one and it's really scratched. So I had to buy a new one. But that's probably another rule. Be like Catherine and treat your tools right. They last you 9 years. Mine's 50 years old, so it's new.
It probably helps that I also work on the computer, so half my pattern cutting doesn't actually use a ruler.
No, yes, I've never done that, so yeah.
And like you said, it's great to have all the tools, but you don't need them to start. You don't have to spend like hundreds of pounds getting all these specialist tools. You really just need a ruler, a pencil, and some paper. And really any paper will do. It doesn't have to be dot and cross paper. Like you said, brown paper is fine too. So point number 3 is kind of on the equipment vein already, like we said, but it's more about the pattern. So if you have a block that you really love, it fits you perfectly, you spent loads of time developing it, or even if you haven't developed it, if you've bought like a pre-made block, exactly like Charlotte is there, then you can fit it and get it perfect, get it to a point where you're happy with the fit, the balance, the details, all those kinds of things. Then that's going to save you heaps of time down the line, because that block's going to be your starting point for any new patterns. So it's kind of like your template that you're going to use to create new patterns. So if it's perfect, then all the patterns you create from it, in theory, would be perfect as well. If it's imperfect, then those imperfections are going to be carried through into all of your new patterns.
Yeah, I think that's it's about also like not only got something that really fits you well, so it's easier, but I think you also understand more about patterns. Because I think if you only making, for example, commercial patterns, you never actually understand how did that garment develop. But if you have a block you start with, you actually really like you're building with knowledge rather than always altering things. So you're really building your foundation of stuff you can do because you actually understand how it all comes together. Yeah, so completely. I think that's one of them. I think that's when you really get to know what pattern cutting is, once you have a block and you're building on it rather than altering stuff or changing the fit. So I think that's sort of, we put in the middle, but it's actually a really important point. And actually that sort of knowing what you're doing, I think is also point 4, is to make, when you're drafting something to begin with, don't make a massive project. Start by drafting something. I think you said it. We chatted about it. It made complete sense. Make something you wear quite a lot, so you can be critical about it, because that's how you actually learn the most about drafting, is by wearing it or seeing it on somebody and actually say, oh yeah, shoulders don't actually work. Why is that? And when you go back to drafting, if you make your wedding dresses your first ever drafting thing, you're only going to wear it once and you're going to be so excited and nervous, you're not going to notice. But if you make like a top or something, maybe not a t-shirt because that's different, but if you make a top or skirt, you're going to wear that quite a lot and you're really going to notice maybe your mistakes and what has gone well, and you're going to learn from it a lot more, I think.
Yeah, I agree. You have to be critical of your garments. If you only wear it once, you're not going to be that critical. So if you wear something and your neckline rubs once, you're like, oh, well, that's fine. I'm never going to wear it again. It's my wedding dress. But if it's something that you wear all the time, every day, that's going to annoy you. And if it annoys you, then you're going to know, okay, well, it's wrong. I have to change it. If you aren't critical, then you're never going to improve. The only way to improve is to think, what am I doing wrong? How can I improve?
Yeah, and actually one last thing to that point, which that's always what I found really not too pressing but annoying working as a pattern cutter professionally. You never actually see the feedback from people, because if you put on a model, the model is a perfect fit for the bodice block and it looks perfect and she walks around a bit and it's fine. But it's always what I love about working as people make their own clothes, is you get the feedback saying, oh, actually, I can't lift anything up. And, or I was walking for an hour the other day and it's really uncomfortable. And I think that's why it's so important that you are critical.
Yeah, I agree. We used to have, at one brand that I used to work with, the sales team used to come in 4 times a year. So it would be just after the collection had just hit the store, and they would come in and they'd have all the feedback from all the like VIP clients who'd come for like private fittings to try on the collection, or the sales team had tried it on themselves, or the investors from the brand had gone to like try everything on, and they'd put it all into a document for us, and the pattern cutters would have to go and like comb through it and be like, okay, well, this is a photo of that woman wearing this and it looks too tight here, but it looks really good on the model. But the model isn't actually our like customer size, if that makes sense. Like models aren't average size. So this woman who's a little bit more busty is more of our like average customer. So then we'd have to amend things like that. So you have to be critical in that way to think like, okay, well, I know it looks good there, but does it look good in practice, in real life?
Yeah, it sounds like an ideal situation out there.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, it was a lot of extra work compared to some of my plans doing.
Learning from mistakes.
But no, it was good. So point number 5, our final point, is that books are fantastic. Don't get us wrong, like we love books and you can learn so much from books, but they have their limitations. You can only learn so much from them. Really what you need is you need to actually practice in theory, not in theory, rather in real life by experimenting. And you need to find a teacher, a real person who you can ask questions to, you can talk to. These are things that you can't learn from books. So really, learn as much as you can from books and then do your research, find a teacher that works for you or a course that works for you, a physical person that you can email and ask questions, or if you're there in person, just ask them in person. It really will help you. Sorry, I've lost my words there.
That's fine. I think you made the point really well. And it might seem a bit weird because you're both teachers, so you're saying yes. But I think it's how it doesn't always have to be a teacher. It can be saying do an internship with a pattern cutter. It's just, I think, having that sort of in-person or on-screen relationship where you're actually seeing how things happen. Because books is always going to be condensed to a diagram and some instructions. And in real life, it might be something, yes, this is how you do it. But over the years, I've learned which one to be best practice. But I've learned if I do this now, it works much better. So I agree. It's some stuff you have to sort of get away from the written rules and sort of work with somebody and find out what really happens in industry and how it works. Even for making your own clothes, is to sort of then say, yeah, I can draft 10 different shawl colors, but is it actually the style I want, or does it work with my body shape and stuff? So is that sort of at some point you have to stop copying and learning and just work with somebody and develop rather than even just read.
Yeah, I agree. And you'll also learn like tips and tricks that you won't learn in books, because obviously we all think you should do things the proper way, you know, the way that we're all taught to do things really, really perfectly. But in practice, that's not how it always works. There are little like tricks that you can do, like shortcuts that you can take to make things quicker that aren't going to completely wreck your pattern. And you're not going to learn that in a book. You're only going to learn that from someone who has the experience to share with you.
And I think also you need to learn the correct way first to you then understand by the shortcut works, isn't it? Because otherwise you're just not learning bad habits, but you're learning a trick without understanding why it works. So it is that learning journey from books to full understanding and practice and working with somebody. I agree. So these are the 5 things Catherine and I really wished somebody told us when we started learning how to draft. And what do you wish somebody had told you when you started pattern cutting? Please let us know in the comments below.
Thank you so much for watching, guys. That's it from us.
So it was the first in my new series with Catherine. I love chatting for her. I find her really inspirational. She always brings a new perspective I hadn't thought about, and I hope our 5 things also help you a bit in your pattern cutting. If you haven't subscribed, please do, because this is going to be a monthly series, so we're going to be back in January. And if you have any feedback, please let me know in the comments below. And if you liked it, like the video, I'd love a thumbs up from you. But that's it for me for now. Thank you so much for watching, and keep on drafting.